Number 8. MAGEN FIERAMUSCA. In November of 2019, Texas woman Heidi Broussard gave birth to her daughter Margot. The woman and her baby then vanished without a trace a few weeks later, on December the 12th, after leaving their Austin home. Broussard's fiancé was the initial suspect, but then the authorities followed a lead that took them to the home of the woman's best friend, MAGEN FIERAMUSCA. Outside the residence, the police found Broussard's body in the trunk of a car registered in FIERAMUSCA's name. The investigation would later determine that she'd been strangled to death with a dog leash. Inside the home, the police found baby Margot, who was unhurt. FIERAMUSCA claimed that the child was hers. It was subsequently revealed that she'd pretended to be pregnant in the months leading up to Broussard's death, with the sinister intention of murdering her best friend and stealing her child. She'd even set a fake due date for December the 1st. FIERAMUSCA was arrested on charges that included capital murder, tampering with a corpse, and kidnapping. If she's found guilty, the woman faces the death penalty or a sentence of life in prison. Number 7. Cheyenne Rose Antoine. A selfie posted on Facebook proved instrumental in the conviction of 21-year-old Cheyenne Rose Antoine for the 2015 murder of her best friend. In March of that year, the body of 18-year-old Brittany Gargle was found on the side of the road in Saskatoon, Canada. Antoine had initially told the police that she and her friend had gone out drinking and that she'd seen Gargle leave with an unknown man. However, security cam footage from a bar that Antoine claimed they'd visited showed they were never there. She tried to further cover her tracks through Facebook posts, asking her friend where she was and adding, "Hope you made it home safe." A break in the case came from one of Antoine's friends, who informed the police that she confessed to the killing that same night. The most important piece of evidence was eventually found on social media. A belt, which had been used by the attacker to fatally strangle Gargle, was discovered near her corpse. Roughly 6 hours before the body was found, a selfie featuring Antoine and Gargle had been posted on Facebook. In it, Antoine was wearing a belt that matched the one from the crime scene. The woman ultimately admitted that she'd killed her friend while drunk after a heated argument. She pled guilty to manslaughter and received a 7-year sentence. Number 6. Matthew Flame. On November the 4th of 2018, in a park on Sydney's northern beaches, Matthew Flame beat his best friend to death while heavily intoxicated on MDMA. Flame, then in his early 20s, had been partying with 26-year-old Liam Anderson, son of famous Rose Tattoo frontman Gary "Angry" Anderson. In the early hours of the morning, after reportedly taking a 10th MDMA capsule, Flame left the house in what was described as a state of mental distress. Anderson went after his friend. He caught up with Flame, who suffered a psychotic episode, and saw him as a demonic entity that had come to take his life. Flame killed Anderson after striking him with his fists, his feet, and a rock. He was frothing at the mouth when confronted by police officers, as he believed they were demons too. He realized what he'd done a few hours later and maintained that he'd never intended to kill his friend. Flame would be diagnosed with treatment-resistant schizophrenia while in custody. His defense attributed the fervent attack to his pre-existing mental condition, while the prosecution argued the psychosis had been self-induced by the excessive consumption of drugs. One forensic psychiatrist agreed with the prosecution, noting that Flame hadn't suffered previous episodes and that his mental state improved once he'd sobered up. Other specialists argued that his schizophrenia, exacerbated by his drug use, was the root cause. Flame was ultimately found guilty of manslaughter and sentenced to 8 years in prison. Number 5. Murder of Cynthia Hoffman. In June of 2019, the body of 19-year-old Cynthia Hoffman was discovered on the banks of the Eklutna River in Anchorage, Alaska. Her head and hands had been bound with duct tape, and she'd been killed via a gunshot to the back of the head. It was ultimately revealed that the murder had been orchestrated by Hoffman's best friend, 18-year-old Denali Bremer. She'd been tricked into doing so by 21-year-old Indiana man Darren Schillmiller. While talking to Bremer online, he'd been posing as a millionaire named Tyler. He offered Hoffman $9 million to kill someone, record it, and send him the video. Bremer enlisted the help of 4 of her friends, promising them a cut of the money she was expecting to receive for the killing. Hoffman, who was described by her family as having learning difficulties, was lured by the group to a rural hiking trail. On June the 2nd, it was there that Bremer was bound and executed. 16-year-old Caden McIntosh was named as the one to have delivered the fatal shot, with a gun provided by Bremer. She subsequently sent a Snapchat of the killing to Schillmiller. The case is ongoing, but if found guilty, each of the accused faces up to 99 years in prison. Number 4. EDUARD SELEZNEV. In 2002, Russian man EDUARD SELEZNEV was convicted of a double murder for which he spent 15 years in prison. Following his release, SELEZNEV, who'd previously been homeless, was back to living on the streets and in the shelters of Arkhangelsk. In 2016, he killed one of his friends with whom he'd shared a room at a homeless shelter. After stabbing his victim to death, he used an axe to dismember the body. Most of the remains he placed in garbage bags and threw in the Volochnista River, but some he kept. SELEZNEV liquefied the flesh and slurped it down, as he had trouble consuming solids due to his lack of teeth. By March of 2018, one of SELEZNEV's drinking companions took him in at his apartment. SELEZNEV killed the man and cannibalized him in a similar manner to his 2016 victim. He continued to live in the apartment, and when the victim's relatives came by to look for him, the killer cannibal told them he'd moved to St. Petersburg for a job. The family was reluctant to accept SELEZNEV's story. The victim's father became suspicious after finding odd-looking unpackaged meat in the fridge. He then discovered a jacket with SELEZNEV's passport, even though he'd claimed having no identification on him. The family notified the police, and SELEZNEV, who'd come to be known as the Arkhangelsk cannibal, was arrested. After several interrogations, he confessed to having killed and eaten 3 of his friends over a 2-year period. The victims were stabbed to death after they'd passed out from drinking. They were dismembered with an axe and partially cannibalized. As for his motives, SELEZNEV claimed he had a craving for human flesh and that he'd heard voices telling him to kill and eat his victims. In spite of his horrific statements, SELEZNEV was deemed sane and thus fit to stand trial. He was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Number 3. Arandi Elizabeth Gutierrez. Arandi Elizabeth Gutierrez and Anel Baez, both 16, were best friends who went to the same high school in Guamuchil in the Sinaloa region of western Mexico. In early 2014, Gutierrez and Baez had a falling out after the latter uploaded revealing photos of them to her Facebook. A tweet written by Gutierrez on an account which has since been deleted read, "It may seem that I am very calm, but in my head I have killed you at least 3 times." She'd also reportedly told Baez she'd be lucky to survive until the end of the year. On March the 19th, Baez invited Gutierrez to her home in an attempt at reconciliation. While there, Gutierrez claimed that she needed to use the bathroom. Instead, she went into the kitchen and grabbed a knife. She then approached Baez from the back and stabbed her 65 times. Gutierrez fled the scene, and Baez's family later found her lifeless body in a pool of blood. Gutierrez tried to keep up appearances and mourned with common friends. A week later, she attended Baez's funeral. It was there that the police took her into custody. She was sentenced as a minor to 7 years in prison and released in September of 2017. Today's topic was requested by Darth Embo, Jacqueline Perry, and April Yavorski. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Brian Winchester. In the years that followed his passing, in 2000, the death of Jerry Michael Williams was regarded as an accident. In December, the 31-year-old Florida man had left his home in Tallahassee to go duck hunting at Lake Seminole. He disappeared and was presumed to have drowned. When his body wasn't found, the authorities surmised that alligators had devoured his remains, which was false as they don't eat in the winter months. In the years that followed, Williams's widow, Denise, married his best friend, Brian Winchester. Their relationship eventually took a turn for the worse, and Denise filed for divorce. Faced with the threat of losing his wife, Winchester kidnapped her at gunpoint, but later released her after she promised not to go to the police. The woman did in fact contact the authorities, and Winchester faced 20 years in prison for kidnapping and domestic assault. Afraid that Denise might start talking about the past, he entered an immunity agreement with law enforcement for information regarding the death of Williams. Winchester revealed that he and Denise were having an affair at the time. He had lured Williams to the lake at her behest, with an initial plan to stage a boating accident. When that failed, Winchester shot him. In 2017, Williams's body was discovered buried at the edge of the lake, and it was concluded that he'd been killed via a shotgun blast to the face. Denise was arrested for the murder conspiracy and in 2019 sentenced to life in prison. Join the They Will Kill You team by rocking the latest merch from theywillkillyou.com. Order yours today to be one of the first to spread the word. Number 1. Amy Sue Brown. In February of 2018, Amanda Hill and Amy Sue Brown were celebrating the former's 36th birthday in a camper next to her home in Prosser, Washington State. Joining them were Hill's boyfriend and Brown's fiancé, Brandon Fayard. The couple shared drinks until midnight when Fayard claimed he was going to bed because he had to work the following day. Hill followed him inside, saying she had to use the restroom. As Brown went into the home, she found her best friend in bed with her fiancé. She flew into a fit of rage and a fight broke out between the two women. It culminated with Brown fatally shooting Hill twice in the torso. In court, Brown argued that she'd acted in self-defense but was ultimately found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Thanks for watching. Would you trust your best friend with your bank account and crypto wallet passwords? Let us know in the comments section below.